Our guest today is Dr. Kathleen Davenport, Director of Physiatry, HSS Florida, and company physician to Miami City Ballet. Dr. Davenport, you have so many accolades in your work that you do, so we're very honored to have you here. Thank you for being here. In this time of quarantine, as a doctor working with dancers and with dancers' bodies, how have you been able to function, or what adaptations have you made in your work to serve your job role?
I think one of the biggest adaptations is the expansion of telemedicine. So telemedicine is something that was already on the radar and already started, but has been rapidly expanded in terms of our capabilities of treating our dancers. And there are good and bad things about telemedicine. I certainly miss that one-on-one contact when I'm doing my telemedicine visits. But the great thing about it is I can see the dancer in their environment, and particularly during this COVID crisis, so many dancers are adapting their dance environment to some home studio setups and things like that. And I can actually see over a camera like this what they're doing, not just a dance movement, but how they're doing it within their unique environment. And that's been very special to be able to be brought into their home and into their dance environment. The other thing is watching a video of a dancer within their environment. I can sometimes see more movement than what I can see in clinic. And, we live in South Florida, and so our dancers are spread throughout the region. So you guys know with South Florida traffic, even during COVID, it can be hard to get to a doctor or a therapist or someone who really understands dancers. And so this has been able to expand that. So maybe they're doing one visit in person, that might be a long drive, but then follow-up visits, even physical therapy visits, are a combination of telehealth visits and in-person visits to help with just the day-to-day realities that it's pretty tough to drive sometimes in South Florida. So that's been one of the more exciting things that have come out of this crisis.
Have there been any consistencies that you've seen among dancer ailments or injuries working in this way?
So overall, what I've seen as a trend is either overuse or underuse, but definitely a change in activities. We know from dance medicine and science literature that when we have abrupt changes in activities, those are risk points for an injury. And that's what I've been seeing, is that dancers are not able to use their bodies exactly the way that their bodies have been used to being used. And so now we're seeing a lot of new things where dancers might be trying a new cross-training activity and going for it full force when maybe their body wasn't quite ready, or they're more sedentary and not doing as much dance. All of those things take a toll on the body. And so as we see the dancers now and coming back, it really is about listening to the body and making sure you're ramping up, ramping down, and making those adjustments as activities have to change.
What would you say would be your sort of best advice?
Yeah, so I would give them 3 little points of advice. Number 1 is be gentle with yourself. This is new for everyone. It's new for you mentally and physically, and not to forget that mental game with this. So many times we're used to pushing the physical aspects, and this can be a time that can be equally or even more difficult mentally, because even if we're able to do some dancing, we're losing that. So be gentle with yourself. Make sure to do your self-care mentally, physically, nutritionally, and be gentle. Number 2 is go slowly and gradually with your changes. So if you're ramping down or ramping back up, some dancers, just stop completely because they really couldn't, that was kind of what they felt might help them mentally, is just to stop. And that's hard on the body. So any kind of ramping, a slow taper down, a slow taper up. And third is jumping. So jumping has been a very difficult issue, because doing 0 jumps when your body is used to jumping is not great, but then having to transition to jumping on concrete or tile floors is not great. So trying to find that balance of maybe doing some light jumps, finding some padding to jump on, but not cutting them out completely, but also you do want to modify them somehow and keep them going in a modified way.
I hope everyone really pays attention to what you say, because everybody's in the same boat, and they are all in different environments and different work spaces. So it makes such a big difference.
Well, I was just going to say that's one of the hardest things is, I'll have people ask me, well, what do I do about this? And it's such a complicated question because everyone is coming from different levels of dance, different environments that they're in now. I mean, nothing is normal. So to talk to dancers and figure out their unique situation, it really is just trying to individualize each treatment plan because every situation is so unique right now.
So what do you anticipate the dance culture to be like once you do return to the studios? And what will dancers need to be looking out for once they start being able to move around in ways that they haven't been able to move around in quite a while?
I look at this in two venues. One is the issue with the COVID. I mean, I had a long discussion about, how do you wear a mask dancing? That's so complicated. We know masks are essential for blocking the spread of the virus and protecting yourself and your friends and your fellow dancers and your family. But then how do you reasonably dance while wearing a mask when it can be so uncomfortable? So these are really hard things coming back. And what I've encouraged dance educators, dancers, dance choreographers, artistic directors is to be very clear and concise with those expectations because there's so much uncertainty right now and people are making choices, and you might agree with some and you might not agree with other choices, but the most important thing is when you do make a choice about coming back in this crisis is to be very clear about what that's going to look like and to be clearly communicated, so that the dancers themselves can make decisions that are best for them and their bodies, of where to go. For me personally, I'll be 100% honest. I'm not going to be back into a studio environment until, either I'm doing activities that I can wear a mask and everyone is wearing a mask, or we have a cure or a vaccine or something that it is safe without any risk of virus spread. But I have the luxury of being an amateur dancer, of doing it for my health and for fun and enjoyment. It's not my career and my primary way of making money. So that is very much a luxury and a privilege that a lot of professional dancers don't have. And so it really is about, when I say you're going into an environment, there's no such thing as zero risk. It's all about assessing the risk, mitigating this risk. And then I do think with returns, if COVID is still active and you are returning, or when I am returning for my dancing, I do foresee it being a combination of continued video interactions and in-person interactions because people have a different sense of risk depending on their age, depending on their medical capabilities, depending on whether they've been exposed and they think they might be immune. There's so many things. And as we learn more about the virus, those risks may change. I do think one of the most important things, if you're making the choice to come back, is to really enjoy it. If you're going to make the choice to come back and be with people, to honor that choice and to truly enjoy it. We miss each other. I miss people. I miss my dancers and dancing with them. And so I think everything is going to feel very weird and very different with more space in between people, more sanitization, not having guests waiting in waiting rooms, not using changing rooms. There's so many things that are going to be different. And I think those changes can be so stressful. But one of the things we miss so much is being with each other. And so if you know you're going to make that decision, you know what that looks like, you have clear communication, then just enjoy it.
Well, I have to say your words are so inspirational. That makes you feel so good and so positive about what right now, what could be a really negative situation. It sounds really, really hopeful and positive and good. On that same line, what inspires you? What drives you? What keeps you going? It's sort of an uncertain time. What makes you keep going?
As for me, my passion, my love, my reason for getting up in the morning is to do everything I can do to help dancers stay well and stay healthy and dance to their full potential. And it's so interesting that I feel there have been so many people in our South Florida community, nationally and internationally, who have supported me and this vision. But it's very interesting. People who I haven't met are all of a sudden coming to me and asking medical questions of, how do you stay well, being at home. And this time at home is very unique and very different than a typical layoff for a dancer, but there are some similarities. And so it's really exciting for me to have much more dialogue with the dance dance community, instead of me feeling like sometimes I'm coming and lecturing, to be able to hear more and have more open back and forth dialogue, that has been such a treat, such a blessing, such an opportunity in this time to have people reach out to me and say, oh, you're a doctor, you know dance, you know dancers, what should we be doing here? And I love that. I love having dialogue, communication with my dancers and the dance community.
In a funny way, while everybody has been so disconnected, I think that many times people have been more connected in a roundabout way, you know, so not that you can physically touch, but the fact that you can actually just be connected, which is really, really lovely. Do you feel like you've grown during this time, that you've like learned new things, or something that's sort of pushed the envelope for you and made you discover something that you didn't really know about before?
I think we all feel a lot more capable with these video platforms than ever before, and probably than we ever really wanted to be, right?
Very, very true.
So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, telemedicine. Yes, we can do that. You know, like we've all talked about it. And then to learn it, you know, I mean, we've talked about telemedicine. We've been asking for it. We haven't really done a lot of it, you know, so expanding. So, you know, thinking about it goes, well, how do you examine a dancer over a camera? Okay, well, we should probably ask them to do this, and this, and, you know, reaching out to other members of our dance community and brainstorming how we're going to do an exam and how we're going to have these lectures and conversations and write articles and having more collaboration. So I feel like I've grown immensely in directions I never necessarily thought I wanted to grow in. But now that I'm here, you know, growth is always great, even if you didn't think you needed it. So it's been a very exciting trajectory with growth in many areas.
Oh, wow. Well, Dr. Davenport, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I know that you said such wonderful things that everyone is going to take to heart, and hopefully they'll listen to. And thank everybody for joining us for this wonderful conversation.